Hello, Sonor family. This is Julian with Sonor Talk with Mike Starcher. Mike, welcome, sir.
All right, thank you, Jules. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. We've known each other well over 20 years now, and we did
You could have gone without saying that.
well, Mike, you and I have known each other 3 or 4 years now, and anyway, uh, so you've been a Sonor guy for longer than that, as have I. So where did it start for you?
um, well, I had not been playing at all for quite some time. I think I quit. I quit playing when I was like 22, and when my wife and I got together, um, she kind of nudged me back into playing again, and we went out and I bought a drum kit, not a Sonor kit, but it was a Pearl export kit to be honest, and I found a Sonor snare at at the shop when we were buying it, and the guy gave me a $75 credit on the snare that came with the Pearl kit against the Sonor, and it was a 14 by 7 phonic. So he wanted $200 for it, so I bought that snare. Took the drums home, set them up, and started playing them. And my wife commented, she said, "You know that drum kit really sounds awful, but I love the sound of that snare." And that was it. That was what started me down the Sonor road, so to speak.
So when you saw the Sonor snare, was there brand recognition? Were you familiar with the brand?
Absolutely not. And when I first started playing when I was a kid, I played a one of those Japanese stencil kits for a long time. And the first really good drum kit I ever played was a Rogers,
Mhm.
and they were a Cleveland made kit. And I wish I had them back. They were really a sweet little drum kit. And then I played Ludwig's for a while, and I played Pearls just before I quit playing. And so I really had not even heard of Sonor, but I started playing this snare drum at the music store, and it just sounded so amazing. I just couldn't get over it. So I took it home and playing it with that Pro kit. That's what started me down that road.
So how long did it take you before you followed suit with a full drum set?
There was a drum shop here in town called Percussion Specialties, and I would go down there on Saturday or Sunday and buy sticks or heads or whatever, and kind of hang out a little bit. And I came home one day and I said, "Hey, they had a Sonor kit, a used Sonor kit for sale down there." And my wife looks around. She goes, "Well, where is it?" I said, "Well, it's still at the shop." She goes, "Man, get down there and get it before somebody else buys it." So, and that was my 74 champion kit, which I still have. I think it was probably a year after I bought this Pearl kit
Hmm.
that I ended up with a Sonor kit. And I think I had a Tama Art Star kit after that. And then that was it. It was all Sonor after that.
So when you came upon the Sonor Champions, by that time, after having the phonic snare, had you realized that you hadn't just lucked up on a fluke good drum, or had you by that time come to the knowledge that Sonor was a really incredible brand of drums?
Well, I started reading up on them and doing some research, trying to find out more about the company. And then I brought the champions home, and they were in immaculate condition. They were a little bigger drum than I normally played. The kick drum was the 24,
Hmm.
and the mounted toms were 13, 14, and 15. And then there was a 16 and an 18-inch floor tom. And I got them home, and it took a while with head combinations and tuning for me to tame them down because they were pretty in your face. And but I realized then, after realizing how old the drums were, and a little bit more about them, I realized that, wow, this is something. These are something special.
Hmm.
So like I said, it just took off from there.
So kind of walk us through the timeline of different gear you've had.
Okay, well, I bought those champions, And then I ended up with a mid 80s phonic kit, which I really liked as far as the sound. But again, the kick drum was a 24 and the toms were 12 by 12 and 13 by 13. And it's really hard to set those up
Mm-hmm.
at a comfortable height. So then I ended up finding a 94 highlight kit, which I still have. Um,
Now on that highlight, uh, that was a bit of a departure from how they did things manufacturing wise with the hardware and all that. So when you got the highlight, sonically, with them being the maple shells and having all the rubber, gaskets and all that, how did that compare sonically to what you had owned up to that point?
there, well, I mean, as you know, as most drummers know, different woods, have different properties. And the beech, I've always felt the beech has more of a even response across the spectrum, as far as lows, mids, and highs.
Mm-hmm.
And the maples are a lot warmer. And so I was missing some of that attack um, with the highlights, but they still, I had played other maple drum kits and the highlights sounded much better than any maple kit I had ever played. So the obvious quality was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, like I said, I was missing some of the highs, but I do like those. That's, that's the kit that I played on our CD that my band recorded back in 2013. I played the highlights on that CD.
And that was Shady Drive, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that was the Darker Shade of Blue CD that we recorded in 2013. I picked up an S class kit from I got them on eBay from Tony Hillhouse, who I didn't know at the time, but I got to know Tony,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have those. And then I bought a Delight kit, brand new, and I got those from another endorser. Which at the time I bought them, I was not a Sonor endorser, and but that kind of led me to being a Sonor endorser, which uh, was pretty fortuitous. And then from that, I ended up ordering an SQ2 kit in 2008 um, as kind of a retirement present to myself because I retired from my full time job. And so I bought the SQ2 kits in 2008. And I still have all of those except for the Delight kit. I sold that to a friend of mine. He he just would not leave me alone until I sold them to him. So I sold those, but I still have the champions. I still have the highlights, the S class, and the SQ2s.
So the SQ2s, what shell layup did you get with that?
The toms are all medium beach. The snare is medium beach, and then I bought two kick drums. One is medium beach, and one is medium maple. The difference between the two, other than the wood, is the beach kick drum is a 22 by 18, and the maple is a 20 by 18.
What made you opt for the maple on the 20?
Because I was going to a smaller size, I wanted a little bit more thump to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to the maple to give me some more bottom end. And both drums sound amazing. I play the 20 most of the time, just because it's a little bit easier to haul around.
Mm-hmm. Well, 20 can have all kinds of a punch and attack and all that, and still deliver some really good bottom end too. So
Oh yeah.
it's definitely not really a trade off, is it?
No, no, it's as a matter of fact, I get the comment quite a bit from different sound techs in that it's the drum is very punchy. Actually, the way I bought the kit, I ordered the 22 and 10, 12 rack toms and 14 and 16 floor toms and the snare. And then I went back later on, like probably 6 months later, and ordered an 8-inch tom, and I ordered the 20-inch kick drum.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, when I went on the configurator to order the 20-inch kick drum and the 8-inch tom, I really did not plan to order a maple. It just struck me while I was in the configurator, like, I wonder, maybe I should get maple to give it a little bit more bottom end. So that's what I ended up doing. And so I sweated over that decision until I got the drum. And then when I got it and tuned it up and heard it, I was fine with it. So I wanted something a little bit different, but like I said, because I was going with a smaller drum, I wanted a little bit more bottom end in it. So once I got it, I was pretty happy with it. I did get a Jubilee snare, but I got that before the SQ2s because those came out in 2000. So,
So do you ever go onto the configurator and just take a look around and play with it and see what you come up with?
oh, absolutely. I've been on there numerous times. Most of the time when I go on there, it's a little 4-piece kit I'm designing because that's kind of what I'm down to playing now. My 8 and 10-inch tom and the 16 floor tom kind of sit in their cases until there's a kind of a pickup band that I play with where I use all that. But most of the time, right now, I'm playing in a little country band called Cuyahoga Slim, and it's the 20 with the 12 and 14 and a snare.
Well, do you suppose one day that you'll configure something and it will actually become a firm order?
If I can figure out how to do that without uh, without my wife knowing about it, probably, yeah.
Well, up till this comment, she sounded pretty supportive so far. So,
I will tell you, if it were not for me meeting her and us getting married, I would probably still not be playing. When I left the band I was in and quit drumming when I was 22 years old, it was because my ex-wife was not really fond of me being in the band. And then over the years, I never really just got back into it until I met Erica and she nudged me back into playing. And I mean, that's pretty much the way it went. She said, you should start playing again. So we went and bought a drum kit, and that included that Sonor snare. And then she said, hey, I was jamming with a bass player in a spare room in the house, and she goes, you guys sound pretty good. You should start a band. Next thing we know, we're in a band, and then there we went. So if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be playing at all. So I could probably get it by her. She'd probably be fine with it, but it's right now I'm not playing as much as I used to. Up until COVID, I was playing 150 dates a year
oh wow.
and working a full-time job. So uh, then that happened, and we went from 150 gigs to nothing overnight. And now I'm probably playing maybe once or twice a month, and I'm not as young as I used to be, so that's fine for now.
So, as far as being an endorser goes, in what way does your endorsement benefit you? And I'm asking you for the people that don't understand that there's more to an endorsement than you just getting gear from or getting new gear from time to time.
There's always somebody there to talk to as far as advice, or if you have something that's not working the way it should, parts. There's a bit of a brotherhood, I would have to say, of Sonor endorsers that we talk to each other and offer advice, and just there's a kinship there. It's a family.
Mhm.
The artist reps were always great. When I came on, it was Rusty Martin. Greg Zeller for a while was the artist rep. Sean Cox, he was amazing. Sean was a great guy. Sean was the artist rep about the same time that Steve Smith came out with his signature kit. And Sean called me and he said, "Hey," he says, "you're pretty close to Cleveland, right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm like right on the outskirts." And he said, "Well, Steve is doing a tour with his signature kit. He's doing a clinic tour." And he said, "We're going to be in Cleveland in June." This was would have been 2008. He said, "You should come hang with us." And so I went out to the clinic, and Sean and Steve Smith and I had dinner together, and I watched the clinic, and Steve is just an amazing drummer. So that's another thing that never would have happened had not I not been a Sonor endorser.
Yeah.
Um, but then Henry Go, who is the artist rep right now, is really great. Um, he updated my artist page on the website, the Sonor website. He's just really great to deal with. So,
So is that your only experience with him, or have you seen him other than that?
um, Vital Information was playing here in town at downtown, and the name of the venue escapes me at the moment. So my wife and I went down there to see him, and we got there real early. So we walked in and we're sitting at the bar having a drink, and Steve Smith came walking in, and he says, he asked, do you know where do I load in? And I'm like, well, I don't work here, but I'll find you somebody, So I went and got the bartender and had them go get somebody, to tell him where to load in. And that was before I had had dinner with him and Sean Cox. So that was the first time I ever met Steven. He was such a nice guy. He was like, hey, how you doing? Can you tell me is this where I'm supposed to load in? I said, well, hang on, let me go get somebody. And then at the clinic when we had dinner, Sean asked me, he says, hey, we're going to go have dinner. Where do you go around here? Where's a good place? Well, now the clinic was on the east side of Cleveland and I'm from the west side. So I told Sean, I said, I have no idea because I said, this is like a different country over here. I said, I have to have a passport to get across the river to get to the east side of Cleveland. So we went back to the hotel where Steve was staying, and he asked the desk clerk, where's a good place to go? He says, oh, we'll open the kitchen back up. They opened up the whole kitchen for Steve Smith. So Steve and I and Sean sat there and had dinner and had a really nice conversation. It was kind of funny because Sean had introduced me to him, but he didn't tell Steve that I was a Sonor endorser. So we're talking, and while Steve was talking, I was listening. He was telling, stories and that. And so he mentioned Scott Henderson, the guitar player. And I said, oh, I'm in a band that does one of Scott's tunes. They actually were named, the band is named after that tune. It's called Tore Down House. He goes, oh, you're a drummer? And Sean goes, oh my God, I forgot to introduce you properly, So then he's introduced me to Steve. He told Steve I was a Sonor endorser. So that was kind of funny, but it was just a really fun time. And he's just such a down to earth, personable guy, very nice, very easy to talk to and listen to.
Now, I never had dealings with Sean in his capacity there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a dealer, I went up to the HSS warehouse a few times. They let me go up there and look through the parts bins and all. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I went up there several times and met Jerry Goldenson, and
Yeah.
Rusty was not long gone. He actually, the first time I was going up there, I was expecting to meet him, and he got relieved of duties, like 2 weeks before I was supposed to go. But Sean was always a great guy, and
Mm-hmm.
when I found out he'd gotten promoted, I was really excited for him and felt like it was very deserving of that. I don't even know where he got off to now, but anyway,
Yeah. I met Jerry. He's an extremely nice guy. Um, I met Carl Heinz Menzel at NAM. Um, that's another thing. Being an endorser, you can go to NAM, and that's a great experience. And I've only been to the summer one in Nashville. I have not been out to LA. I would like to. Um, Maybe that's something you and I should do together one of these
hey, you
days.
know what? I plan to go to the Music City drum thing in July.
Yeah, I'm not that far from there, so that might be. I like to take little motorcycle trips now and then, so that might be a good ride. But yeah, Jerry, Rusty was great. Sean, uh, um, and like I said, Henry, who's the current artist rep. great guy. It, it's I have not met anyone that's been off-putting or that hasn't been welcoming or helping
Yeah.
since I've been involved with Sonor.
Do you have any other Sonor drummers that are kind of heroes or that you really look up to?
Well, Todd Sucherman,
Yeah.
uh, he posts frequently posts videos of him playing with sticks, and I watch those over and over again. Um, I'm amazed by the the power that he gets out of traditional grip. And I mean, I try to play traditional grips sometimes, but I I can't do it like he does. But of course, I didn't start out that way, and he's been playing traditional grip for a long time.
Hmm.
But just the precision and the coordination that he possesses, and the stuff he does behind that drum kit. Um, Steve Smith, of course, I've watched him quite a bit, and I've met him several times, and so I always try to watch the stuff that he does. But yeah, I mean, he's just amazing with playing different time signatures with different limbs and that. It just um, Thomas Lang when he was with Sonor, I thought was pretty awesome. He's no longer with Sonor, but
I thought that was pretty interesting because they had the twin effect giant step pedal, which he mastered quickly.
yeah,
And I think he might have been involved in the development of that. Is that correct? Do you know?
I don't know if he was or not. I know he was one of the users of it that was in the forefront when they first came out with it. I think he was the first guy that was doing videos with it, and yeah, he was killing that thing.
So what's your typical gigging kit?
Right now, it's the 20-inch maple kick drum, 20 by 18, um, and the toms are 12 by 9. I didn't go with the power toms. I was kind of trying to duplicate my champion kit when I ordered my SQ2s,
Hmm.
and so a 12 by 9 rack tom and a 14 by 14 floor tom, and then my go-to favorite snare is I have a D505, and that's my workhorse. I play that all the time.
So since you tried to duplicate your champion with the SQ2s, how do they feel and sound when you compare them, playing one from the other?
I would say that the SQ2s are probably a little bit mellower than the champions, and I'm sure that's due to the SQ2s are a 9-ply beach, and the champions are a 6-ply beach, and then the bearing edges are different. The SQ2s are 45 bearing edge, and the champs are a rounded bearing edge. So I think the SQ2s, they still have that really nice beach tone, but they're a little bit easier to tame. They're a little bit mellower, less raw, I guess would be a good
Hmm.
way to put it. Kind of flying blind and trying to duplicate the champions and not really knowing what I was getting into. I'm real pleased with the way they turned out. The
Hmm.
only time I played anything else at a gig was I ran a jam night, a musician's jam night for about 10 years. And I didn't really want just any random person beating on my SQ2s. So I played the S class kit.
Hmm.
And that's what I took with me when I was running a jam night. And those held up really well. I mean, they're easy to tune and they're easy to get them to sound good. And they're very durable, as a lot of different people played them over the course of 10 years. So
So which S classes are these? Because there were several different iterations along the
there's
way.
the S Class Pro.
Okay. What color?
They were written, if you know Tony Hillhouse, who I got them from, They were originally that mint green swirl. And Tony, who was a painter, like he painted automobiles and stuff by
Mhm.
trade, he painted them black sparkle. And he put them up on eBay, and it was a 20-inch kick drum, and then the 10, 12, 13, and 14 all hanging toms. So there's no floor tom with it. I used the 14 as a floor tom. Um, Painted them all black sparkle and put them up on eBay. And I got a pretty good deal on them because I waited till the very last day and I bid on them and got them. And Tony actually called me and he said, wow, he said, I really took a bath on those. He goes, but I'm glad it was you that got them.
How do they sound?
They're a little bit more open than the highlights because they're maple also. The S class are maple also. They're a little bit more open than the highlights, but other than that, there's really not a lot of difference. They sound really good. When I was running the jam night, a lot of guys would come to the jam night because the jam night kit was a Sonor kit, and there's probably 8 to 10 drummers around Cleveland that play Sonor now because they played them at my jam night and they went out. They wanted to get a Sonor kit,
Hmm.
and now some of them had in mind to buy one, and they came out to my jam night and played them, and they're like, "Yep, that's what I want." And
Yeah.
some of them had no idea what Sonor drums were until they played them, and then they're like, "Hey, where do I get these?" There aren't very many Sonor dealers around Cleveland. There's 3 that I know of that are in this area.
Until you've actually looked at one or played one, you really don't understand the difference.
Mm-mm.
The pictures don't do any justice. And even listening to videos on YouTube and all that, there's just nothing in the world like actually seeing it and playing it for yourself.
No, I mean that's what when I bought my first Sonor drum, when I bought that snare, I mean, I saw it and I'm like, wow, that's huge, because it's a 14x7, and but I like, wow, that's a big drum, and I sat down and I started playing it, and I didn't do any tuning to it or anything, any tweaking at all, and it just sounded amazing. So, I ended up buying it, and like I said before, my wife commented, she goes, well, that drum kit doesn't really sound that great, but that snare sounds really great. You should look into that. And Sonor's shells, they ride just a little bit further in away from that hoop, and I think that's what gives them a truer sound. They're
Hmm.
easiest drum to tune I've ever played. Sean Cox was the artist rep when I bought my SQ2 kit. And there's a little story about that. I ordered Ice Sparkle, and then probably a month after I ordered them, I saw a picture of Ice Sparkle, but whoever put the picture in and labeled it mislabeled it. But it looked like the worst silver sparkle you've ever seen in your life. And I got a hold of Sean and I said, dude, I need to change the color of these drums. And he goes, oh man, you can't change them now. So I was just like beside myself. And he goes, what's wrong? And I told him, and I sent him that picture that I saw. He goes, oh, that's not Ice Sparkle. And he sent me a photograph. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. Well, when I got them, I was just completely blown away because they're a white gloss, and then they shoot it after the white gloss is on and polished. They shoot it with clear, and it's full of sparkles. But the sparkles are all different colors. So depending on how the lights hit them, sometimes they glow blue, sometimes red, sometimes green, and I get a lot of comments on that color. I had not been in contact with my artist rep for a long time. I wasn't even sure who it was, so I wrote to Jerry, and he put me in touch with Henry Go, who's the artist rep now.
Right.
And he said, well, if you send me some information, he says, we're putting more people on the Sonor website. So I looked through the pages that were up there, and a lot of guys had their SQ2 configurator number in. Well, I can't find the email with mine in it. So I went to reconfigure them and they don't offer that finish anymore. So I configured them, I think, as white sparkle. And then I didn't end up sending it to Henry anyway. So, but yeah, if I wanted to buy another drum in that finish, I'd be out of luck because they don't offer it any longer. Because we played at we played a benefit at this place called Wilbert's, and we were using. I got talked into using their house kit, their backline, and that's not something I let happen very often. And the reason for that is I'm a Sonor endorser,
Yeah.
so if I'm playing, I need to be behind a Sonor kit.
Yep.
And so I've actually hauled my stuff places that I really didn't want to haul it because I did not want to play a backline kit. Um, I sent you one picture of my kit set up at the House of Blues. They have a DW kit that they use as a house kit, and it's got House of Blues on the front drum head, on the kick drum head. And I wouldn't use their kit because I was playing at the House of Blues, so I wanted to play my Sonors. So anyway, we were playing at Wilbert's, that's the place that I couldn't think of earlier where Steve came in with vital information. They were playing there at Wilbert's downtown. And we were playing a benefit there. We're playing their back line. And I get up there and I hit the snare drum and it was like, what? Are there any snares on this drum? I flip it over and the bottom, the snare head is just ripped from one end to the other. And I did not bring a snare drum with me, that was the last time that happened. I always take a kick pedal and a snare drum. And so we ended up putting the only 14-inch drum head laying around there was an Emperor. So I put an Emperor on the bottom of that snare, and I hope there was no recording of that ever gets out because it sounded god awful. I've met some really cool, interesting people, and you being one of them. I mean, you and I got to be friends over Sonor drums, and we've known each other for a long time. So it's been a journey. I've done a lot of interesting things and been in a lot of interesting situations, gone places I never probably would have gone. So it's it's been a trip.